Hello, Matrix loves. How's everybody doing? Happy Monday. Hello, guys. So good to see you. Juliana, Olivia, Jess, Luella, Ilona, Ashley, Jenny, Casandra, Abby. Hello, 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 Mariana. Okay, I'm so excited because we're going to get into the arrows. So the arrows are so helpful in understanding more of how we operate and what is supportive to us. So the most important thing I didn't go back to inside of human design is understanding that within our design, there are so many ins and outs of our design that again are either opposite or they are they make sense to what your design is. Now, what we don't want to do is we never want to override, especially with this information that you guys are getting today. We don't want to utilize this information to override how our energy type, strategy, and authority work. Okay. We're not going to override it with this. So we're not going to use these as like these little boxes that again keep us inside or the lid on top of the box. We want to use these to support our energy type, our strategy, and our authority. Okay, so these are the support systems behind. They're not meant to lead. So we're not meant to like re-navigate ourselves to make sure that that's working. We're meant to utilize those in what's working within our inside of our energy type, strategy, and authority. And these just support that. So a lot of this information, what you're going to learn today, so everybody make sure you have your own charts up, but what you're going to learn today is again, going to feel very, for some of it, very familiar and make a lot of sense. Some you won't even notice, like a certain part of it. I find most people are like, oh, not really aware of that. And then other pieces will be like, ooh, I go against that. So there's going to be parts where you're operating the opposite because of the depth of conditioning. Yeah, Luella, wherever you are, that looks stunning. All right, so I'm going to screen share with you guys, but I want you to have your charts open in your own background because the information that I'm giving you is going to be showing a basic chart and the arrows in it, but yours will be different. It will have the arrows in there, but it'll be different. So hang on, let me get this open. Arrows PDF, okay. Okay, so most important thing, you guys can see this, yes? Okay, most important thing, you guys, is you're going to be looking at and making sure that on your chart, you can actually see these arrows at the top of the head. Okay, so this is just like a little clip out of a chart. You're going to have the whole chart. If you go to mybodygraph.com, can anyone not see this on their chart? Like cannot see arrows right now? Luella. Okay. Okay, so what you want to be going to on my body graph is, let me see if I can screen share this one right now. I'm just going to show you how to get there if you cannot see it. Okay. So on mybodygraph.com, you will have a chart that looks like this. This is with no arrows right now. Okay, so you want to be going into opening it up as, so there's a little drop down right here, open online software, and it will take you to the whole chart. If you cannot find this on my body graph, you can also go to myhumandesign.com and it should show you your arrows there. Okay, so that's another website to be using. All right, and if by default, reach out to the team and we can support you after, and you can go back and check this out later. All right, back to our preview. Okay. So the arrows, so remember how I was talking about on your chart, we have our reds and we have our blacks, right? So you're going to see inside of your chart, you have things that are colored red and you're going to have things that are colored black. The red side is always going to represent, anything that you see red on your chart is going to represent the left side of your chart, which is the unconscious side of your chart. So remember when we did our profiles, I'm a 5-1. My 1 is the unconscious side, which is the left side of my chart. Okay, so it's coming from over here. And then on our right side of the chart is our conscious side, which is going to be any of the black. So right here, there's a colored in right here. That's black. That's going to be found on this side. Okay. Now, the way that the arrows are broken down, we have 2 on the left side and we have 2 on the right side. They're numbered 1, 2. So we're starting at the left side on the unconscious side, and then 3, 4 over on the conscious side. On our unconscious side, these 2 arrows are things that, again, we're not really that aware of. They're things that are supportive to us, but it's not going to be like something that we know at the forefront. A lot of these things too are very, very, very conditioned aspects of how we've grown up, our schooling system, our parents. A lot has been passed down how we should be operating. So we really butt against it, or just literally have no idea. Like we literally have no idea what would be the best for us. Like I often say, even in health, right? There's like everything should be differentiated and individualized, but we all try different things. Even our hair, for example, we're all trying different things that are maybe going to work for us, maybe not. That's basically what we're doing when we don't know what our arrows are. We're literally just trial and erroring everything to see what it is that's going to work for us. And even when it does work, then we fall off track because we're like, oh, there's something else. There's a different way of doing it, right? So what we're going to be looking through is also understanding right away before we get into what these mean. If you ever have an arrow that is facing the right hand side, okay, so an arrow that's pointing towards the towards the right, just like this one right here, that's going to mean it's more of a feminine based energy, okay, more passive. If you ever have one that is facing the left, like this one right here, it is going to be more masculine and more active and more structured, okay, more consistent. So that's just the energetics behind the arrows. Okay, so we're going to go into arrow number 1. So arrow number 1 is our top arrow on the left-hand side. Okay, our top arrow on the left-hand side. Okay, so what this is meaning is our first arrow right here is our consistency and digestion. Okay, so basically how I break this down is saying how we digest food and information. So this is really big for our body. It's how we take in information and digest life and how it absorbs within our system and how we're going to best support the absorption of this. Okay, so if your top arrow right here points to the left, you are actively digesting life. Okay, so it's active. It's in that masculine based energy. Okay, so what this means for you is having more structure and consistency, more repetition and more routine will be very helpful for you. So again, this is for food and information. So utilizing your body. When we think of human design, essentially what we're doing is we're trying to get to our most optimal use of our energetic system and our body all in alignment so that we become the most optimal beings. So when we think of being optimal, we're also thinking of the digestion within food. So when we understand how we absorb information and food, it's going to help our bodies become smoother, lighter, faster, right? And more functional inside of our bodies. Okay, so you're going to a lot of like the memorization and facts, that you're much more logical, a little bit more precise in information. So remember, this is not going to be like completely defined for everyone to be absolutely true to the end of time, because there's other pieces within our design that are going to be different from that, that also function together, that you're like, oh no, I'm lit up by a sacral, so I'm always changing my mind. The structure and consistency isn't the thing for me. Remember, this is the backbone of it, right? This is behind the scenes of how we're supporting our strategy, our energy type, and our authority to be utilized. So memorizing and details are really like your strong points for you. It also means that you're going to be doing well with consistent eating and having a more structured meal plan and schedule. You are going to be the ones that are going to want to avoid, when we think of our bodies, you're going to want to avoid fasting for long periods of time, because you're basically the people that need small little chunks consistently. So when we think of, you know, even for our bodies and our health, our more structured eating this is going to be really good for you. So you're going to want like a little breakfast. And again, this is going to differentiate how like what's good for you individually, but you're going to want that breakfast. You're going to want that little snack in between. You're going to want that lunch. You're going to want the snack in the afternoon. You're going to want dinner. You're going to, you know, you need consistency. And basically what it means is your brain is operating and needs more and more and more fuel as you go through in order to absorb information and utilize your system properly. So that structure and consistency is key. So when we think of, you know, even routines and repetition for moving your body, you're going to be more supported with a routine. When we think of work, you're going to be more supported with a structure and consistency within your work, whether that means, you know, every Monday and Friday you're off, whether it means you start work every single day at 9:30, whatever that looks like from there. But there's some form of structure in your day, your life, and your habits. Okay, so you will feel that your brain is more active again. So it is like, it's eating things up. So we want to think again, like you're digesting, right? So it's eating things up faster. It's eating things up more consistently. It's eating things up on an ongoing basis. Yes, more of that hyperactive brain, the masculine energy, the movement, the forward motion. It wants to get something done. It wants to keep going. So in order to support the way that your brain is operating, we're fueling your body and giving the system for your body to support the brain function. Okay. And again, okay, so just a comment that suggests it appears I'm very out of alignment with my arrow. And Olivia says mine is more passive, but I'm always stacking and I love routine. Wow, interesting, right? So again, we're going to go through each of these arrows and we're going to see the difference in between all of these. And again, how some of it will be fully supportive and others you're like, oh, well, again, my sacral's leading me. So my sacral leads and behind the scenes, we have support there. So we want this after you fully understand how you are in alignment in your energy type, your strategy, and your authority, right? This won't work if we base everything off the arrows and then work forward, right? Okay, so if this arrow points to the right, so if the same arrow, but now it's pointing to the right, you are more passively digesting life. Okay, so more passively. So routine for you can feel very suffocating. You can crave freedom and that variety. You have more of a passive mind, which means you're observing, you're taking in, you're breathing, you're taking your time, you're making little connections in between instead of that go, 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 go. So space for you is very important. You answer more intuitively, right? You're a little bit more tapped in because you're absorbing so much and creating so much space that you're picking up from, you know, way over there. And now it's coming in way over here, right? So a little bit slower, but more intuitively. Your mind is actually designed to absorb all of the information about a situation. The details are not important. Where if we have more of a structured mind, you're going to want more of those details, right? The passive mind is a little bit more open and fluid in what means what. So it's built for insight and depth. For food and exercise, it is more passive. You don't need as much. So these are going to be the people that will benefit from more of the fasting, right? Going longer periods of time without food, because again, that's actually, if you're creating a consistent schedule and eating, your energy and your brain is actually having to work that much harder to break food down for you guys. So it's not going to be operating in its fullest fluidity if it's now needing some of that reserved energy to go break down the food. Right? So that's how the state of flow is so much better and space for you guys until you're like, okay, yeah, you know, now I'm hungry, right? So trusting yourself to not be on such a schedule because it will actually weigh you down because your brain is needing to work harder in order to absorb that food. Okay, so for you guys that are passive, so I'm more passive. So what this means for me is that when I'm looking at my lifestyle, I am going with the flow, right? I am more in that feminine state. If we look at my design though, I need as a projector, so this is where some of the differences are going to be. I need as a projector to have my time, my couple hours a day where I am working. So for me, inside of my lifestyle, it works more to have a bit more of a routine in my working life, but my exercise life, my eating life, my lifestyle is much more passive. Right. So again, we're going to play into how this works inside of our businesses, our lifestyle, and your own self. So for example, I will like work out with a trainer. I'll have my trainer on certain days, but then the rest of my movement for that week, I'm like, oh, maybe I want to go for a run today. Maybe I want to join up for a spin class tomorrow, right? That's much more passive. In my eating, I don't eat until I'm hungry. So I'm not sticking to a schedule unless I know, obviously I'm going out, I'm not going to have anything for a little while. Like I stick more to like trusting that intuition and that space inside of my body. Whereas Liz, for example, she has this facing in the more structured routine. And she literally, like when we live together, she's like, I don't understand how you can like go like this. I need to wake up at a certain time in order for me to really thrive. I need to wake up at a certain time. I need to have my morning routine. I need to have this and this and this, right? So she is much more structured in that state where she feels like she's thriving. She feels a little chaotic if she doesn't have that home base of routine for her. Okay, so next arrow, total permission to be ideas. I see routine as freedom, the freedom of choice. I love that. I have a routine time, but what's in that routine is free. Yes, exactly. Perfect. I love that. Okay, and then up here I can relate to that hyperactive brain. Me too, Leah. I could never do what Melanie does. Changing up the time, I would go insane. Right, all of the different changes there. Okay. I love my morning routine, total cranky pants if it gets disrupted. Okay, so next arrow. So next arrow is still on that unconscious side, and it is the bottom left arrow here on the left-hand side and the bottom arrow. Okay, so this is referring to your environment. So if this points to the left, again, that more structured masculine energy, you're here to be observed. Okay. So for you guys inside of your environment, so this is basically like in your environment, how are you meant to be showing up? So it's not where you need to go, it's how you fit into the environment inside of this, okay? So you like a more structured environment and you like more of that front line being watched, right? So being in a place to excel and essentially be the example. So you're here to be observed. So this becomes more obvious for the ones that are like, oh, I'm the observational person, right? I'm observing, where the observed are like, oh, do I really like to be seen? Do I really like to be front and center? Again, going back to your energy type, this is going to really play into the fears we have inside of our energy type. If you are a projector, for example, and you're meant to be seen and heard in order to be recognized, and you're here to be observed and you're like, well, I don't like it at all, right? This is like where we're going into the deeper subconscious of being like, okay, what is that resistance? Why is that resistance here? Because you will thrive when you step into that. So basically you're here to be the person and the example. You're here to be watched. Exactly. You're here to be watched, Leah. Yes. So you need to be seen there. For example, too, this doesn't necessarily mean like you're going to be on front of a stage, right? But if in your work, you're showing people how to do something, right? You're showing people how to do something. So if we go back to learning as a child, you also are likely the ones that like to watch something and understand from that, right? You are the example. So if they're like, as a little kid, you're like seeing somebody do something and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. You're like, am I doing this right? You're asking the authority to watch you do it, right? To make sure that you understand and how it's being done. You could also be the person, you're presenting something in front of the class. in your work today, looking at how you lead inside of your programs, looking at how you show up on social media. Like, are you letting yourself be observed? Are you letting yourself be seen? And this could go even into your morning routine. Are you allowing yourself to be seen? Are you allowing yourself to, your habits, your work, your lifestyle? Are you letting that be observed? Because it will be of huge impact for you. You guys are dirty. Okay, so if we go into the right arrow, so our bottom right arrow, okay, but on the left-hand side, bottom right arrow, okay? As a projector with the second arrow to the right, no. So it does not mean not being seen. So again, remember everything inside of our design, this is now supporting our energy type. So as a projector, you are still here to be seen. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, okay? But as we get into the depth of this, now if it's pointing to the right in that more passive way, you're here to observe the environment, okay? So you're here to walk into a room and you're here to like check things out in an environment. You're here to look around. You're here to notice the flow of things. You learn best from different environments, not from necessarily watching the person do the thing or being watched do the thing, but you're here to learn from a variety of different ways. You're literally learning by what you're picking up, by what you're observing. That could be the sound, that could be the lighting, that could be the action, that could be the energy, that could be the conversation. Okay, so you would be more of that creative inspiration from a new environments, more flexible. Again, freedom, spaciousness is very supportive to your creative work. So you learn from seeing and watching people and places. Okay, so it's so important for you to be like, when you walk into a room, and this is the biggest difference, again, for in alignment as our energy types, when you walk into a room, are you the person that's leading a conversation and beginning conversations with people, or, jumping right into a group that's already having a conversation and kind of being there? Or are you the one that like walks around the outskirts of the room and kind of sees all the people, like which group do I want to jump into, right? Are you a little bit more back and watching and observing? So again, this will then help you support what you're putting out into the world. So for example, if this was you, yeah, you could feel like a big introvert, right? So again, these little pieces of ourselves where like, these are such tiny little nuances inside of our lives. And sometimes we really resist it and we're like, oh, this must mean that I'm shy or I'm not confident. It doesn't mean that, right? But it's how you understand what you're doing with this information now. So if you are more passive and here to be observing, you're going to start noticing what you want to be utilizing with this is what you're picking up and what you're observing. Are you putting it back out, right? Are you taking intel from it? Are you taking wisdom from it? Are you understanding things, putting it together in your world for you to be putting it back out there? Okay. So really important, again, if you are the one being observed, that you are letting yourself be watched. You are letting yourself be seen. You are letting these things be seen about you. Again, this is going to go into lifestyle. This is going to go into work. This is going to go into results or clients. This is going to go into all of the pieces of your life. If you are the one that is here to observe, make sure you're watching, and not just watching, but you're taking the intel and information and creativity and acting on it. Okay. So you're not here to just be somebody online who's sitting here like, I'm watching. Like, understand something, get it, grab the information, put it together, and go do something with it. Okay. Okay, so I'm just catching up. So Juliana, I don't know my exact birth time and ran the chart for 6, 7, 8. And I noticed that one of these arrows flipped. So would I go with the one that resonates the most? So these are super hard to, when people are like, oh, just go with what resonates the most. These are really hard because they're so deeply conditioned and they're so minute, right? There's such little things where we're like, oh, either we feel that or we don't, or we're conditioned. It's really hard to like just guess at it. So I would play with the other 3. I would let the one that has changed kind of go for a little bit and really master those 3 for now. And then if we're able to get your exact birth time, it would be super helpful. This is as well how I behave here in a new environment for me. Amazing, interesting. I feel like I've been operating the opposite arrow for this one. Juliana or Olivia sometimes feels like obvious. It could be the opposites. Yeah. So Leah says difference between letting yourself be seen and putting yourself to be seen. Okay, so well, that would be the thing, right? So we are going to let yourself be seen, like putting yourself out there to be seen would be letting yourself be seen, right? So it's going to obviously be different in real life compared to online. We like online, we literally have to put ourselves out there in order to be seen. Where if you're, you know, in interaction with people, it would just be noticing, like, yeah, go up there, have the conversation, like let yourself be present, like let your energy be bigger instead of shrinking or walking around the room in the background. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Amazing. Good. Okay. So let's go to our next thing. So now we're moving more into our mind and our awareness. So we are on this side. Now we're going to the right-hand side. So this arrow at the top here is how we learn within a pace, or how we recall information. Okay. So for those that have your arrow pointing to the left, pointing inside to your brain, you have more strategic awareness. Okay. So what this means for you is in that masculine, more structured form, you recall information more easily. You have more of a logical mind, more structured awareness. Traditional schooling, for example, and structures and patterns and facts you do well with, right? You would be a person, again, depending on the rest of your chart, but you would do well mostly with like that strategy and the structure and the facts and the numbers. And even standardized schooling, right? Like more of like, okay, I go to school and like, we're learning something. You're teaching me something. I'm putting it into place and I'm moving with that, right? Versus the opposite, who are, again, more of that passive open mind, right? So something that is more structured, you are going to learn, recall information, take in information, and understand facts and logics much better than the opposite would. Okay. So you have more of this receptive awareness. Sorry, that's going into the next one, but you have more of this awareness that is like, oh, understanding. Okay. More of this awareness that is built upon experience and facts and learning. Okay, so that's how you're going to be recalling your information, and your awareness will take place. So for example, if you are a person in here that has this arrow that's going to the right, you're probably going to recall really specific facts and information, and like potentially even like word for word, or a quote, or like, oh, that was on this call, right? You're better at that. That's how your mind operates and works. Whereas someone to the right would be like, oh, I think she said something along these lines, right? Or I think it like meant this, right? So going into more of that open and passive way of thinking again. So that's to the right. So if this arrow goes to the right, you have more of that receptive awareness, more creative, think outside of the box way of learning. So you would be more of like that right brain person, right? You're seeking the creativity, you take more in than just the facts. So again, like the facts don't mean anything to you, right? The facts are not what your brain is taking in. It's like, oh, what was the story behind that? What was the, let's say there's a series of numbers and you're like, oh, well, I noticed that they were in color instead of like, oh, I noticed that the pattern was going out by 7 every time. You're like, oh, I noticed that like every 7th one was red, something like that, right? So you're tapping more into the details behind something that aren't factual, the details that capture your attention. So if you were learning and taking an awareness, right, the more that's going to support creativity is going to help you understand things. So if I was teaching kids, right, this would be done in more like, we'd have music, or we'd have, you know, colors, or we'd have more of like, what do you think is going to happen next, right? Like more of that, like open your mind to now tap into the details that we heard before. And what do you think is going to happen next? So if you're on this call, you're going to be understanding more of like the hidden message behind the conversation, not the title of the call. You're going to be like, ooh, that I really felt that, right? More of the feeling, the emotion, the creativity, and basically reading between the lines to have an understanding of something. Okay, now this is like the arrow of all arrows. This tells us how we manifest. Okay, so I've done like an entire mastermind on manifesting, which literally changes everything in your life. And it goes in way more in depth than this, but this is like your beginning. If you can start to master, especially this arrow, like everything's going to change. Okay. So this arrow is a manifestation and your perspective arrow. So how you perceive things. Okay. So this arrow, if it's pointing to the left, it means you are, again, that more active, more specific manifestation. We literally call this as manifestation arrow. And it would be, this is a specific manifestor. So if you ever hear me say that, like, oh, I'm a specific manifestor, I'm obviously a projector, right? That's not my energy type, but my arrow means that I'm manifesting in a specific way. So this means that your energy, remember, all of these arrows are supporting efficiency and optimal action, optimal state of being, right? How smooth we're running, how quickly we're running. And when we understand manifesting, we're literally, the faster, when we manifest in a really fast way, it's because everything is operating super clean, super efficiently. There's no dirty stuff in there. There's no muck. There's no things in the pipe, right? Like, it's clean, it's clear, it's operating smooth. So if you're a specific manifestor, it means you work fast. Manifestation works fast for you if you have really specific details. So you're going to want to be the people that create a list. You're going to want to be the people that have a very clear understanding of exactly what they want. Now, this does not mean the limitation. This does not mean like this and only this, and I'm not receiving more of it, right? It just means like, you know, at this stage of the game, exactly what you want to be manifesting. So you have to actively be and intentionally be choosing what you want. So, you know, even for myself, when I'm like, I decided this, I want this, like literally, you guys, like my boyfriend and I, we drove around this neighborhood and we're like, we want to live here. We're like, one of these houses are going to come up for sale. And it's like this is like these are like little estates, like this never goes up, like no house ever goes up for sale here. And the fact that we're manifesting it, we got it, like boom, it was there. So for me, like, I'm so specific. Everything that I want, I literally am so like this. Okay, so you need to have a very clear, in order for you to operate and move into that highest self and manifest, you have to be really excited about those specific manifestations. Now, if this means that you're like, I want to manifest 100K a month, but like you're feeling like shame and guilt and lack around it, it's not going to happen. You have to feel really excited about the manifestation. Okay. And then you have to actively and intentionally choose not just what you want to manifest, but how you're acting towards the manifestation, how you're moving towards the manifestation. So I always give this example for this arrow because it's so helpful. So you're going to be the kids where you're like, this is exactly what I want for Christmas. So if we're making our Christmas list, your specific manifestor people, you're going to be like, here's my list. I want 5 things. I want 3 things. I want 1 thing for Christmas. This is the one thing I want for Christmas, right? You're going to be clear about it. You're going to tell someone, whether that's your letter to Santa or your parents or your partner, whoever, like, this is the thing that I want. So you're going to also say no when it's not the thing. So if they're like, oh, this, and you're like, oh, like, you're going to notice the disappointment in you. You're going to notice, they'll probably notice the disappointment. Like, it's very obvious. You're like, well, that's not exactly what I wanted. So when we're manifesting partners, this is so critical too, because it's going to be so helpful when you're like, I have this list, but like, they only have like 2 things on that list. Like, okay, am I just like giving in, and am I being like, okay, it's fine, right? So we need to hold the standard super high of like, this is exactly what I want. Now, if you're not clear with it, don't be surprised that you don't get the exact thing. Do not be surprised if you wrote down, you know, purse, but you didn't write down, well, I want a Louis Vuitton baby blue purse or a bright colored purse. Like, you're probably not going to get the right one, right? So you need to make sure that you're super clear and you're actually communicating that clarity, whether it is to an actual person, like, you know what you want, or to yourself and the universe. You also need to be brave enough to say this out loud. So for example, if I'm like, you know, shy about it and keeping it to myself and being like, oh, like, I want to manifest a thing, but like, I have deep fears around this coming true. I have deep fears around what's going to happen then. I probably didn't vocalize it to my mentor. When I vocalize it, I'm like, all right, like, this is happening. Let's go. And I work on any of the fears that are coming up. So again, I'm moving towards that specific manifestation in a very specific, clear passage towards the thing on the same path. Okay. So if yours is going to the right, so if yours is right, what we would call you is a non-specific manifestor. So this is more of a passive perspective. Okay. So when you're seeing things, it's more passive. So you're going to have a really hard time with like specific details, and you do not want to get into specific details. So again, when we think about manifesting, there's so much out there where it's like manifestation, babe, right? Like write the thing out like 3 times for 36 times or whatever, right? Like that's going to work for you because you're going into these feelings. You're going into like broadening, a deeper understanding, a more passive way. Okay. So for you guys, I call it the art of allowing. So you guys are going like you need very few rules, and then you need to allow the universe to support your needs. So you're going to be the people that are pleasantly surprised. So your Santa list, your list to your partner is not going to be like, I want da 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 da. Now, again, depending on some of these other arrows, you might be a little bit more structured, right? You might be like, I need you to do this today for me, and have like a little to-do list or whatever. But for your manifestation specifically, or example, your letters to Santa, you're going to be like, I want a stuffed kitty. I want a pair of rollerblades, right? Like it is specific, but like you don't care what color. You don't care, you know, what version they are. You don't care what this little stuffy kitty looks like. You don't care what it is. You just want the thing. So it's not about you being like to the exact detail. Why are we going here today? I had some really good sex last night, so maybe that's why. But it's more about the feeling behind it, right? Like it's more about like, like I'm gonna be so excited when I have that stuffed animal. I'm gonna be so excited. Like I just want a stuffed animal. I don't know which one it is, but then all of a sudden you get a stuffed kitty, right? So it's like allowing yourself to go into these places that is operating from feeling and desire base, and trusting that the universe is supporting your needs, and the universe actually knows more than what you know based around your needs. So when you guys are manifesting, you're not writing this exact list, but you are writing. So for example, desired feelings, vibes, dreams, and visions. Okay. So for Christmas, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. You're going to be like, oh, I kind of wanted a couple of these things. And then you come down, you're like, I didn't expect that, right? I didn't know that was coming. And like, you're so happy about it. You get exactly what you want without knowing that you want it when you're open to being like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for Christmas morning. I wonder what Santa brought me. Like, I wonder what's going to be under the tree. And you're just excited about the whole process of Christmas and gifts and opening and Santa delivering them, right? When we're looking for houses, for example, this is another good example for specifically the non-specific. If you're looking at a house, instead of being like, I want this neighborhood, you're going to be like, I want to be close to restaurants. I want to be walking distance to parks. I want, a lot of grass, or I don't really want upkeep of my house, right? I want something super simple that I could take off for a month and it, it's basically being taken care of. So you're, again, more of like the wants and needs are being met, but like what that is, or which one it is, or exactly what it looks like does not relate to you. Like you don't need it in order for you to get what you really needed, right? So in your feelings though, you're going to go into a house and you're like, I want it to feel really homey, or I want it to feel really spacious, or I want it to feel really open, or I want to feel, really safe and have a lot of rooms inside of it. I want it to feel like we could have a lot of people over. I want it to feel like I could, again, leave the house and it's completely fine for a month. Like I want very minimal maintenance. So we're tapping into these feelings. So you guys have to trust, because it's so easy for you guys to get swept into the details. In non-specific, it is so important for you to tap into these feelings and these vibes and these energies and these big dreams that, could seem so far away. And you're like, how on earth is that going to happen? You have to be in the trusting and going basically from one manifestation of feelings and desires or vibes to the next. And also not getting caught up in like, so for example, if it was a 6-figure month and you're like, I'm manifesting the 6-figure month for you guys, okay, we can hold that bigger dream and hold bigger vision, but how do you want to feel this month? How do you want that 6-figure month to feel? Because your steps in the lane of manifesting will be walking towards the feelings and everything supporting the feelings for you guys. So if you're like, I want it to be so fun, I want to just like, literally collect the most memories I've ever had in my biggest month I've ever had. So we're not focusing on the end game. We're focusing on the journey towards the end game. Okay. So that's coming in feeling, in vision, in vibes and energy around, and the trust and surrender in the support. So you're on your path with kind of these mini check-ins. Like, does it still feel like that? Am I still excited? Am I still collecting the most memories ever? And if it's like, no, okay, is there fear going on? Is there doubt going on? Like, what's happening in your process that's stopping these little check-ins to be happening for that bigger vision? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to come to some of these comments and then we have time to hop on. So I'm just going to scroll up. I use the word surrender a lot. It feels good. Amazing. So Leah, I know this is supposed to be validating, clarifying, but I'm working through judgment around my arrows. Okay. So this is the thing. So at the very beginning, Leah, I literally said these things, they're so little and they're so small, but they are so deeply conditioned. So if we grew up in a household, for example, I'm just going to use this manifesting arrow as an example. If we grew up in a household that was like, tell me about your day. And you were like, oh, I don't know, I had a lot of fun. We played a lot, blah, blah, blah. And someone's like, well, what did you do in math class? Like, what do you want for dinner tonight? Where do you want to go tomorrow? Like, what are you doing this month? What's your goals? What's next for you? And you're like, just like want to be happy and I want to connect with my friends and I want to be doing this, right? Like we are so conditioned inside of what our parents believe is correct, what's working for them, right? What they like, what information they want to be getting from us, what makes them feel safe. And then in a broader scope, our education system, our friends, our relationships, all of those are deeply conditioning these arrows in such a big way where we could feel the complete opposite. Oh, you're upset because they're accurate. Okay, well, that's good. I mean, they're accurate. And now it's just about you leading into it, right? Instead of creating that own resistance. Now you get to flow with your arrows. Okay, could you talk? I'm going to have you guys up in a second so we can hash that out. But could you talk about the control of manifestation for the left arrow? Okay, so control within our manifesting arrow pointing to the left. So it's also not about control. So we obviously still have to be letting go, but what we're letting go of is the need to force and make the thing happen in our manifestation. So if you're like, it's going to be a 6-figure month, it's going to let's just use that as an example. It's going to be the 6-figure month. It's going to happen. If you're not acting, there will always be a point where we can look and be like, ooh, like this is open. I was not in alignment with this. This isn't, we can't force the manifestation. It is the energetic. So remember, these are supporting the energetic and optimal efficiency within our design. So going back to your base of your structure of your energy type, your strategy and authority, your profile, your centers, we have to decondition. We have to work with all of those things in order for these to be operating in its fullest efficiency, right? So we can't just look at the arrow and say, well, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to adjust this, I'm going to go into this, and then those things are off. So in our manifestation, we aren't controlling the outcome. We're still working in our energetic alignment within the depths of our design. These are just the backbones and support of it. So we are not controlling, we're still leaning into surrender, but we are very specific with our wants. With the first arrow to the left, do you feel like the person is overall less relaxed and it's harder to go with the flow? Yes, I do. So especially depending what centers are defined, it is much harder for this arrow. So what Ashley's talking about is this top arrow right here, pointing to the left. It is more difficult for them to go with the flow, especially if they have more centers defined right here, because again, we're going into our head and we're working from this space. So if they want things to be, A, B, C, D, for them, it's because it supports them. So outside of them, it's harder to go with the flow, because if you have a partner that is the opposite and they're like, maybe we'll go here. You're like, well, I need to know because I need to make sure this, right? So again, these are so helpful also for understanding other people in our lives of what would be supportive of them and why things are not always working so well together, because we're so different in these ways. I feel like I have functioned more as a specific manifestor, but I should be passive. Does that mean I'm forcing it? Yeah, usually. So usually, again, like we're told this is what's going to work and this is how it should be. And this is what's going to, support your manifestation specifically. So most of the time, the non-specific really gets swept up in the specifics. Are you less intuitive if you're left arrow for the first arrow? Not necessarily less intuitive. You just need more of that structure. So any of this is not saying that you're less intuitive. It just means the way that your brain and body and functionality works is either more passive, like more watching, less needs to be, not less intuitive per se, but the more structured you are, the more left you are, the more things are a little more straightforward for you. But it doesn't mean that your intuition is any lower than anybody else's. Okay. Michael has a question. Let's raise our hands. Okay. This is why I have a hard time detaching from results from the left with a left facing arrow. Yes, it could be. So remember, you guys, like what this is, these arrows, these 4 arrows are going to be of support within our energy type strategy authority, how we utilize our profile, and then our defined and undefined centers. So we need to work within those in order for these to be of support. So it could be something else going on. Okay, I'm going to go into I'm going to stop sharing here so I can see your faces and everything here. And then I'm going to go into our raising our hands. So, Michael, come on up.
Hi. First of all, I want to say like this almost makes me emotional because I feel like all of the things that I've been like shamed for so hard my whole life is literally how I'm supposed to operate as a being. And it honestly, it was like crying a little bit during that. I still feel kind of emotional. But what I wanted to ask is about my the being seen one is the masculine for me, the arrow that says that I'm supposed to be seen. And I feel like this has come up a lot, like in this program, like with like visibility and just like you're meant to be seen and stuff. But I also noticed that in my chart, I think it's my throat, is undefined, which says that my not self theme is trying to attract attention. And I specifically feel like even around this Reels challenge, like I feel like I've had it in my awareness that I'm supposed to grow my audience for a while, but like there's these times where there's like this disconnect in the energy, and I'm like, ugh, it feels like asking energy, which feels like wrong. So I'm just wondering if you can speak to that.
Yeah. Okay. I know like, honestly, anything within our charts, like when we understand why we're feeling a certain way of our conditioning, it literally cracks us open and be like, oh my gosh, this is the way I'm supposed to be. I knew that, right? This is really what builds our self-trust. Like I knew that, I was connected to that, I had an intuition about that, I was feeling that. And then also like the shame that gets built in throughout our lives to be like, oh gosh, I shouldn't be wanting to be seen, I shouldn't be wanting to, people to see me or hear me. And then experiences that also validate or invalidate that, right? And what we make meaning of it. So thank you so much, Michael, for sharing that. And I love that you're feeling it. Okay. So in our charts, so what Michael is talking about, is it okay if I share your charts?
Yes,
okay.
definitely.
So what Michael's talking about in his, so he has this arrows left facing, which means he's meant to be observed. And and obviously as a projector, right? So then what he's saying though, in his throat center, which is undefined, so no color in here, which means he has inconsistent energy here. He has none of his own. It means that he's saying that the not self theme literally says right there, trying to attract attention, right? So when we're out of alignment, we're trying to attract attention. So how these are operating is saying how we want to operate this is what I should say, is we want to be utilizing that undefined throat center in a really healthy way, right? So instead of saying by me wanting to be seen, which is your innate desire and need actually as a projector in order to be in alignment, what we're going to be focusing on is making sure that you're not doing something in order to necessarily be like, oh, validating of being seen, right? You're meant to be recognized, but you could go in full alignment as a projector and as being, the one that is meant to be seen. We could go literally day upon day upon day by being excited about just getting out there and talking about our stuff. Potentially one person watching, potentially no people watching, but just the fact that you're out there and you're letting yourself be seen. When we become misaligned with it is seeking that validation or the need, or what this is talking about, the attention. I'm just going to go say something to get attention. I'm going to go do a polarizing post just so I have interaction, right? Without the truth behind it, without your light behind it. So when we use our undefined throat center in its highest frequency, what we're doing is we're actually allowing the energy that we receive from other people to come through. Throat centers, both defined and undefined, are operating in its highest frequency when it is clear and concise with what it is saying. Okay, so it has a clear message. When the undefined throat center starts to like ramble on and go into all of these other things and kind of loses its train of thought is when we're like, oh, maybe I'll say this, and I'm either lost and not stopping myself, or I'm trying to seek attention for being heard. So for you, what I would be doing is just making sure that what you're coming forward with and what you're saying has a clear, direct message, is operating from the truth of your context and your, I mean, obviously your messaging within your work, that is pure from whether somebody sees this today, whether somebody sees this in 6 months and it lands to them, like I'm going to feel the exact same way. Whether nobody sees this today, I'm happy that it's out of me. Okay, does that land?
Yeah, and it makes so much sense because I feel like the things that I put up that are just like recordings of me talking about something that I was talking about anyway, like if I take a piece from a program and put it up, I'm like, oh, that's so right, like that's so me. Whereas like if I sit there and I'm like, I have to record this for real today, like I don't like it as much. It feels more like disingenuous, you know what I mean? Whereas it's like almost like a window of a conversation that I was having anyways. So that makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much for that.
Exactly. And then like literally, as you just said, what you just also explained was your spleen and this top right arrow that is passive, right? So you're meant to be, I mean, even these over here, you're meant to be in the feeling, in the mode of inspiration, in the creativity, right? Like, it's not like you're meant to sit here and be like, I need to do this today. Check, 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 check. You're literally coming from a place of inspiration, creativity, and connection. So that's how I would check, making sure, like, check yourself with being like, am I just putting this out? And sometimes we do, but if you're not seeking the validation, let it go. You know, if you're like, okay, well, I'm committed to the challenge, I'm going to do the challenge. It's now about not forcing the challenge to be fully perfect all the time within your alignment, but also being like, I can let that go. And I can be like, you know what, that wasn't my best. I did kind of like put that on a schedule. Let that go and not need the validation back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Leah.
So I have a quick question about the eating thing. And Michael, I messaged you where you said you think we're the same. We're literally the opposite. All of mine are masculine, except one, we're the opposite. It's so funny. Okay. Anyway, so for the first one, mine is pointing to the masculine left, you know, and it's really hard for me to not feel like I'm a man right now. But anyway, so they're, and so you said like constant digestion and small little meals. And my whole life, I've been like a poor eater. Like I never want to eat. And then I have like full spleen in HD, you know?
Yeah.
And when I went to acupuncture, like constantly, I used to smoke. And I said, but contrary to many people, I only smoke when I'm really happy. And she said, your spleen, you have such high spleen that your being, because she was also like, woo, whatever. She was like, can't handle your energy. So the smoking tamps the spleen.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is my poor eating just self-sabotaged because I can't handle my own energy?
Potentially. That makes a lot of sense. It potentially could, because again, what we're going into is full optimal power, full optimal efficiency. When we're operating in our design, the way that we're meant to be designed, right? We are going to become our most powerful, optimal, efficient, magnetic selves. So if there's any piece of you that's like, oh, okay, you know, I can't handle, quote unquote, my energy, we will go into sabotage where we take ourselves out of the game a little bit. It's a little bit harder because if we're in our fullest power, what could potentially happen? Now, I know we've talked about like that you don't really feel those fears. So I think there's something deeper where it's like you either are wanting to make it harder, like there's been conditioning where it's supposed to be harder, than what it could possibly be for you, like how it's designed for you. And you're like battling with like, do I go into the conditioned way where it's supposed to be harder in what I believe in your belief codes internally, not what you want, but what you subconsciously believe? Or there's something else within the path of success for you, of deeper fears out there.
Okay. I don't know about the second part, but definitely the first part is what I like came to recently with Jack and another coaching program in. So I have to undo. I mean, I'm trying already to like let it be easy, but I remember I did once do a diet or like an eating plan where I ate like 7 meals a day. And I was like bouncing off the walls. It was not, I didn't know what to do with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, so I would start with just creating a little bit more structure in your day. So maybe this is about the safety of your power. So maybe ease your way in, knowing that your power is going to be amplified in it. And you know, when we do like make a drastic change and then we're like, it's too much, like maybe start easing your way into, maybe it's just breakfast or breakfast and lunch, or, you know, 2 things a day, where then when you feel like you're like, all right, I've got more energy, I've got more of this, then you add in the next piece and do it more of like a tiered process rather than all in.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Casandra.
Okay. This is very validating. My question is about results, like the specificity we're told to do in business, with like how many clients, how many students, how much money. That has always been like a head fuck to me. Like I remember when I was doing an in-person retreat a few years ago, and the business coach I was working with at the time was like, how many people do you want there, and how much money? And then when it doesn't happen, the disappointment, and I always think, am I doing something wrong? But it's just been something I've always told how to do business of, you need to figure out how many people and how much money. But it's been the most frustrating thing for me. And so my question is about, like, with mine being the 4th arrow, the right facing, all my arrows are right facing except for one, which I was like, I'm supposed to be floating in the ethers. Everybody always tells me to come down. I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be up here. I'm supposed to be up here. So with that, like, I guess I'm not quite sure how to ask this, but like, I'm not sure how to approach my business and in my alignment, if that makes sense, because the conditioning has been, you need to be specific, you need to know how much and when and all this, but that always felt like a huge headache. And then my not self theme's frustration. So then I feel frustrated, and then that turns into like this endless cycle. And so I guess it's like, how do I do this? Like business and being myself and being in alignment. I'm like, I feel like everything I learned was like, what the fuck? I wish I would have known this.
Blowing your mind. That's the point. Oh my gosh. Okay. So no, I completely understand what you're saying. And this is why everything in my business, I literally am like, it's designed for you, right? This is why I can't sit there and be like, here's how you're going to make 10K, you know, whatever in 30 days. Like I can't give people the format to be following, because it literally is based individually so different for every single person. So thank you for bringing this up, because there's so much out there that is follow this and it's going to work. And you're sitting there being like, this is supposed to, but why does it feel so shitty? You know? Yeah. So for you, I mean, in your chart, is it okay if I pull it up?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So for yours, like you do have the 5-1. So there is this piece of, again, I'm a 5-1 too. So there is this piece, but I have so much of like, you know, the free flowing passiveness also. As a 5-1, we are leading. So there is this place of like formal structure that is there, but that's going to be led from the place for you, and you're an emotional authority at that. So for you, moving through your waves is going to be the business plan. You have to master emotional intelligence. You have to master emotional mastery within self. When you do that, you will feel the space of understanding what you're lit up by. Okay. As you're lit up, then you're going to step into your 5-1 leadership and information. That's going to come out. So this is how we're operating from a place that is based on design and structure within your design, and allowing things to now feel a specific way. So for example, if you were like, I want, let's say this month, everyone should be manifesting at the beginning of their month, like either going through a specific thing or a based upon emotion and feeling and vibe for each month. It holds the context so well. So if you were like, I want this month to feel, connected or, powerful or, fun or free or light or out there. And then what you're going to do is base everything after you've moved through your waves. The sacral says yes. You're going to make sure that they fit the context of whatever the feeling is that you put out there. So if you're like, okay, well, I want this month to be feeling fun and vibey and whatever, but you're like, I'm going to put out a program that's based upon grief, probably not a match this month. Right? Probably not a match for like the vibey feeling that you want to be feeling. So then we would understand and restructure what you're putting out that month. If it's logic and you're like, well, I said I should be doing it this way, or if truly you are in alignment with the feeling and the vibe that you want to be matching and your program is out there. So you can't sit in this is how it's going to be done, because based on your design, there's going to be a lot of changes that consistently happen. And we have to master the power, personal power, and self-trust of I'm going to change my mind when it's in alignment for me and when it is true for me. And I am going to let go of the big structure, even the 12-month plan that I could loosely have it planned, but like, you know what? If I don't, I don't. If I let go of something, I let go of something. If I do a dramatic change, I do a dramatic change. And we have to get you on board with trusting those moves from you.
Okay. I just feel like everything I've learned was like, just burn it in the trash.
Well, not everything, and not lighting it on fire, but maybe putting it over there for a little while.
Oh my God.
And then you're going to grab in, right? So again, there's going to be some things that you've learned along the way that literally do apply in 3 months from now that work. Right.
Yeah.
So not everything is irrelevant, but it could just be irrelevant in the moment, in the now. And it's going to feel right later, and it's going to make sense later. So just trust the like reconnecting to how you're doing it now, your way, and allow yourself again, that emotional mastery, trust in the sacral, and then learning how to lead from that sacral and put it out there in the leadership with factual information from you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, we've gone. Juliana.
Hey, Amy. So I don't know my exact birth time because I was born in Romania, and I don't have those details. I think it would be really difficult to get them. I mean, I haven't tried, but I know that there's there's different ways that you can try and hone in on the time. So basically, my mom said between 6 and 8 a.m. I looked at all the charts; they're all pretty similar, except for like one of the arrows flips. I'm sure I'll have to look like really closely. And yeah, like it's possible to have it change between 6 or 6:30 or 7, right? Like it's possible that you get a different arrow or something.
Yeah, it is. And I'm looking at yours, like we have the 3 times in it, and it's just
Yeah.
2 arrows change. It's not the manifestation arrow, so that's great.
No,
It's just
that's
your
why I had a
type
question on actually, but yeah, I was just like, I'd love to be able to narrow in on what as tightly as I can. Maybe I'll just put in box or around like what options there are to be able to do that if we can't get the exact, because to get it from the hospital, it's just like, it's not going to happen.
So Mariana can send you, we do have, there's people that actually pull like through astrology, they can pull it. So we do have, Mariana can send you those 2 other alternative ways of getting it if we don't have like the hospital. Again, it's not like we can't be like bank on it, but I mean, even at the hospital, I suppose we can't entirely bank on it being be most
It's just
correct,
it's
right?
harder when you're going back to, Eastern Bloc countries back in the.
Yeah. So she can send that to you, and then you can play around and do a search for. I don't have a person to recommend, but I would not be surprised if somebody here does.
So my question was on the manifestation one, which like thankfully is the same on all three charts. So when we talk about like being very specific, in the case of like your business, for example, is the case that you want to be like super specific on what the vision of your business looks like a decade from now, or like 5 years from now, or like what the ultimate thing is that you're building? Or, if it's a cabin in the mountains, is it like, I want it to be exactly like this, with like this kind of front door and like this many rooms and this facing and like on this mountain? Like, is it that detailed?
It is pretty
I'm
detailed.
really struggling with getting, because I have the cabin manifestation. I've had that for a while. And so I just struggle with like, there's so many that I like. I mean, there's like 100 that would be like, yeah, that would be good. And that would be good. That would be good, So how do you like, any tips on how you think about that?
Yeah. So I don't usually suggest going like your 10-year span, because literally, you guys, so much can change in a year. So if you now realize, okay, I want to move, now we would be getting specific about where you want to move, what you want it to look like. Yes, all of these places could be great, but if you don't know, I would say it's not time to move yet. And then maybe it takes the time where you go to New York, you go to a place in the mountains, you go to California, and you actually get into the places and be like, I like this, I like this, I like this, I don't like this. If we can't figure it out, like from, afar with all of the options, then that means you actually have to go hands-on, try something and see what you like and don't like about it, because you will be able to narrow down. It would be like the same thing with dating. You have this list, but like, okay, right away, you don't know if he meets everything on that list. So you're going to go on a date, you're going to go on another date. You're going to be like, okay, date 2, we're done. You continue to stay open to the process. It doesn't mean just because you're specific, exactly right away if it's the right thing, or if that's the right move. This is where, again, we want to go into your authority. Authority will say yes or no for you.
Yeah. So say it is a cabin. It's not like a primary home, right? It's just like, it's a cabin. Yep. And so is it like, because I almost bought one last year, and then it didn't really work out. The right of ways weren't what I wanted. And then like in Golden, there's some cool cabins that I'm like, yeah, this is a nice view. I could like I would like it here. And I'll go on like Sotheby's or like whatever, these real estate listings, and I'll look at cabins and I'll look at, different locations. And I mean, none of them are like, yes, this one, or it has to be here. Or, so are you saying that in this case, you might want to, or like it could be on the West Coast, like that would be cool, or it could be in the mountains, that would be cool. Are you saying to actually like go and maybe like stay at a place on the West Coast, on like one of the islands, and be like, oh, this is the place, it's here? Or is that?
Yeah, I would say more exploring, because as a splenic, when you know.
Yeah.
If the spleen hasn't spoken to you yet, it's just, you haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
So I'd keep looking. I would keep my feelers open. I would start, it could even be a huge list, or it could be a little list, and then you add or you take away, right? So if you don't have the vision yet, just have like the couple things that you're looking for, go and explore, or look online more, like write down what you really love about this place, what you really love about this one. And it just means you haven't found it yet.
Mm-hmm. And so do you ever just think about like money manifestations? Like if you had, unlimited budget, then it's just like, whatever, I have the money, I just go look around and find what I want, as opposed to like really owning down on like, it needs to be this specific. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you have a budget, right? So you are going to want to be specific in what you're wanting to spend.
Okay. So, well, the question is, would you, is it better to do like a money manifestation, or like I'm manifesting, I don't know, whatever, 3 million, versus I'm manifesting a cabin?
It depends what you really want. So like, if you're like, yes, let's go for the money, go for the money. If you're still unsure about the cabin, I wouldn't spend my energy like that. That would be like a background manifestation because you're not clear on it yet.
Yeah.
We can only manifest when we're specific, when we're clear about the thing that we want. Right. And we're actually attuned to the desire of it. Like the cabin still feels like a desire, but like not a real rush of manifestation, like not a real want. Like when we're manifesting, we have to be so connected to the want of it. Like I desire this. This is like a desire that just came out of me. Like I really want it right in front of me. I want to hold it. I want to touch it. I want it.
Okay. It doesn't feel like there's anything that like I must have this or my life will not be complete. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I'm pretty happy.
That's
like,
so good because it's not, and especially as
I can buy the thing if I just choose not. I mean,
know,
choose not to because I want to have a certain.
This is where so many people end up capping out because it's so hard to tap into desire when it's like, I could have whatever I want. Like there's nothing that like, oh my God, like, a long time ago, you're probably like, oh my God. And then you're like sitting here and being like, I literally have everything that I could have ever wanted and wished for in my entire life. Tapping into desire when you've hit a level is very difficult because it's not coming from like that need-based desire or that like, oh my God, like you're not essentially feeling a different way.
Yeah.
Right. So going into deeper desire, it takes so much more work because you've essentially plateaued the desire. Yeah. So going from great and beyond, right? Going to excellence. Like this takes devotion. This takes dedication. This takes depth. It takes discipline and it takes a deeper connection because those things actually become more present of like the shame and the guilt. And like, I don't need that, like whatever, like it's so hard to actually create a formal, I want to the next level shamelessly and connected at this point. So I would be going
tips on that. Like, do you have any tips on how to tap into desire when like you're good?
Yeah, I would be going like, I would be holding the context even higher, bigger, and I would be going above and beyond where you ever thought of going before. And not because you need to, because like it is a deeper dream of yours. Like there is a deeper desire of how you picture your life.
Yeah.
For the rest of your life, yes, you could be absolutely perfect and good right here. Like you could be like so good, your kids, your family, your life, like so good. But there is something deeper within you where like, ooh, I just wish this would be a little bit, imagine that, like imagine this little piece. And now it's those tiny little pieces that we're going to start to put into coming to real life. And that's where usually most people get caught up in that like guilt or shame, like, oh, whatever, like I don't really need that. I really shouldn't say that out loud. Like, oh my gosh, like I should be grateful for what I have or grateful for where we're at or whatever it is. Like to be able to pull that out of you, I would be tapping in, I would be going into deeper meditation. I would be going into like clearing your mind more. And I would literally be asking myself, like, if I could change anything, what would it be? If things were a little bit different, what would that look like?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's yeah, if there was anything, it would be like probably some like over the top luxury trip with my parents and my kids and like totally everything, like everything private, everything luxe, everything taken care of.
Yeah.
So that's then what you would be manifesting, not the money. Like I could, this is the thing, like I could do it. I mean, obviously I can't do all of it. I could do that. Like I could, if I had just like the one desire, I could do that.
Yeah.
Then, so is it the money that you're tapping into, or is it the experience that I guess whatever is like wherever you're
desiring. Whatever is bigger for you. I guess the question would be like, if you want to do that and you could do that, why aren't you doing that? Why don't you do it?
Yeah. Well, because this is a really, really good question. So this is probably where this is a whole lot of conversation. Yeah, I'm not doing it because I have like a certain I like the freedom of that, knowing that I have this level of assets available creates. So I value that freedom of like not having to do the thing versus, I guess, the experience, right? Like it's almost like yeah, I mean, I could buy a Lamborghini, but I don't, because then I have a Lamborghini and I don't have a million, whatever the, $20,000 for a Lamborghini, right? Like, I'd rather have the asset than the cash asset, the investment asset than the thing.
So I guess it would be kind of the manifestation would then be doubling the asset amount. So doubling what you have right now.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself, because I think there's also that scarcity that's built in here,
Yes.
allowing
Yeah.
yourself to then go use it and play with it. Because if you're just going to keep stacking and stacking and stacking, you're never enjoying and you're never tapping into those deeper desires. So maybe it's about doubling the amount and then going and utilizing that amount and allowing your baseline to be where it is right now and have double above that.
So it's almost like magic money, I guess, is like, okay, so now you get to just create that, which is purely for play as opposed to.
Exactly. And that creates more money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when you don't give yourself those desires, you're literally like, that's a glass ceiling. That's a closed door.
Yeah. I see that. Okay. So yeah, maybe it's spending the money and doing the thing.
Doing the thing.
Doing the thing. Yeah, no, this has been really helpful. Great.
Yes.
Thanks, Amy.
Yes. And the ands. Yes, Danielle, the and. Amazing. Okay, Ashley, and then we are going to complete for today.
So I just had a few questions, like based on my chart with my arrows being super specific, super, I guess, masculine, except for one, and then my whole bottom being undefined. I was just wondering like how that relates, I guess, or yeah.
Okay, amazing. Is it okay if I share yours?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so basically what Ashley's saying, so we can see her 3 arrows right here all pointing to the left, which is more of that structured way. Her head is entirely, like her upper is all defined, which is a lot of structure. And again, logic and analytics. And then the bottom is undefined. So basically what's happening down here and working with the definition that's up here and the left facing arrows, like more of that structure, is your intuition is going to support you in anything you absorb in here, right? Anything you absorb in here, whether it's emotions, your sacral energy, your intuition, your spleen, like all of that is being absorbed to be released and just picking up little pieces of detail and information, right? So we always say that your open centers are where we take in wisdom and insight from other people. So you're going to be, you're going to grab something and you're going to let that energy go. You're going to use some of it and you're going to let it go. But what you want to be doing is grabbing some of that insight and intel that you're getting, bringing it up here as used information, and then moving forward with it. Now, that will not always be the case. And where you're going to come into a lower frequency is like overusing these and literally only using these and not even focusing your energy on opening or allowing any of this in. Because it's so easy to get caught in your head where you go, especially with these being left also where it's supporting the structure and the go, that it's going to take you, being a projector, the awareness to say, and in my schedule, I am going to stop and I'm going to tap out of using these and I'm going to allow myself, a rest, and I'm going to allow myself to go tap into what feels good for me. And I'm going to make myself stop because that's part of what is supporting up here for me.
Okay, so basically that makes sense. So like why it's like really hard for me to kind of drop into the feminine or like let go and just go with it because of, yeah.
Yep. So if you were to set up like even like a timer on your phone would be a good strategy, or your watch or whatever, right? Where it's like, okay, I am working for the allotted hour or 2 hours. And now my alarm is going off. I need to go have water. I need to go for a walk. I need to get sunshine. I need to tap out. And that's for 1 hour. And then I'm going to come back in, right? Like literally, again, structure your day, but structure with the support of the space.
Okay, got it. And then with the feeling piece, like I'm trying to kind of get out of my head and into more like feeling like, ooh, this feels this way. This feels, but is that something I need to like actively do based on everything you just shared? Or?
Yeah. So it is going to be hard for you because you are going to go into, well, like, how will that feel? Or like, what needs to happen in order for me to feel that way? Right. So it's going to be so important. Again, anybody that has like a defined head like this, it is also for support. I'm just going to open you back up. It's also to support like the rest of your being, It's supporting your energy type, right? So we're not leading solely. I mean, there's so much in here where it is supporting of you going that way, but you're not solely like 100% going in the direction of like feelings mean nothing and logic is everything, right? So you're going to make meaning out of something after you have the feeling. But what we want to start doing is saying, well, the manifestation, I want it to feel like this. And then we want to design the rest of your action based on how you want something to feel. So if you want something to feel more, more rested, or you want a manifestation to feel like more effortless, it's like, okay, well, are your actions in alignment with how this is feeling? Will you have that support? So if it's like more rested, the aligned action could potentially be, yeah, I work and I let myself do all of the things that like literally my energy is craving and needs to do. And I'm taking a break, and we're going to a movie night, and we are planning our next trip. Like your resting could also be, or that feminine could also be the planning of the fun and the pleasure and the enjoyment, as long as you then absorb the fun of it.
Okay. Yeah. Turn off my defined head dream. Yeah. Okay. Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And then just two quick things just to clarify with that. So, with the piece of, I wrote, with like my so because my manifestation is non-specific, like that's just solely with like manifestations, not about my decisions as well. Like the decisions is more the self-produced, like talk it out and from my head, basically.
Yes. And you may also find though, that like when you talk it out and like come to a place of decision, it may be like, well, I don't know, I want to do that because like that feels more fun, or it feels more alive over here. Like you may find that your answers that do come out are a little bit in that more specific realm. Just your way of getting there is through speaking and speaking and speaking.
Okay. Got it. So we're more in the non-specific realm, in the feeling.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. It
Okay.
may be more specific. Like you may, from like a first glance, it may feel really specific because you're talking it out and you're talking to, it's almost peeling back the layers of the onion, right? But that's coming through speaking, but the answer that comes through will be mostly non-specific. Like, oh yeah, that would be really fun. Or, we want to go there because like the lifestyle is more free, or, we want to go there because we've never been there before and we want a little bit more adventure, right? There's a base feeling of non-specific, like not this, because it's adventurous, because we feel like we could, go here and there and there and there and there. There's a million things to do.
Okay, got it. So like that was my next. So like if I'm looking at like a house or like a place to go, like, oh, I want to go here next. It's just more like, okay, I know I want to go here because like this is the feeling that this type of, or if I'm looking at houses online or some place to go online, oh, this feeling like makes me want to
Exactly. And then because you're so defined there, you may be looking for the match to make sure it matches that. So if you're like, you want to go to Costa Rica because you want relaxation and you want retreats and you want, all of those things, then you may be like, well, are there places we can actually stay that are going to support that feeling, right? So you are going hand in hand, but you're manifesting from the place of feeling. And then you're probably going into the analytics and definition of like, well, we're obviously going to stay at this place or rent this Airbnb because it matches that.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I have a hard time with like decisions sometimes. So that's just why I wanted to clarify. Okay, cool. So it's just so any future decision is technically a manifestation.
No, not necessarily, because like a manifestation is more like a clear, like a direct want and working towards, where like you could make a decision today that you want to do tomorrow, and we wouldn't really say you're manifesting it, right? You're more like you are like deciding we're going to go there, like we're getting a hotel for the night. That's not a manifestation process. Manifestation is something that like is here, you're here, it's here, like in the dream desire realm, and you're like going like this, like you're taking action and it's just coming to you.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, beautiful ones. I hope you have, if you are in Ontario, I hope you have a happy family day. And everyone else, I hope you have a happy Monday. I hope you, some of you are like going to bed, some of you are just waking up. Whatever your day looks like, enjoy. I love you guys. You're so amazing. And I'm going to be back here tomorrow. So we will be in here tomorrow. We're going to go through and do some hot seat coaching and Q&As. I'm going to pull from our Q&A thread, and then we will plan out the rest of my calls, which I think I'm going to focus on centers. If I feel like that would be like a good next step for us in here. But if you have any requests, let me know and we can do that. Okay. Love you guys. Have the best day. And we'll talk to you later. Bye. Thank you.